Greetings, everyone. Greetings and welcome. My name is Slayheim, and today we're joined by Skwatz the Goblin.
Hello, everybody.
And really excited for this one. So, we're going to cover MMO origin stories, take a deep dive into monsters and memories, and of course, goblins. So, Squats, how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining me today.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's a lovely day to talk
Yeah,
MMOs.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, so for people who don't know you yet, who are you and what's your origin story in MMOs?
Sure. I usually go by Squats, and I started MMOs a long time ago. I always jokingly say that I was on my way to being a rocket scientist or a doctor or something like that, and then I discovered MMOs at 14, and that derailed my path. But
Nice.
yeah, I started MMOs at 14 with EverQuest. Um, and it was one of those things where it just took over entirely. And the funny thing is, when I first started, I didn't even have the game myself. I had to go to a friend's house to play on his computer because I didn't have one at the time. And so I would play, or I would watch him play, or I would play on his account. Don't tell the Sony Online Entertainment devs. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how I started, and then I just kind of chased that feeling, I guess, through a lot of MMOs till this day. That's pretty much.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. You know, a lot of people had that start by watching a friend or, just kind of really getting immersed in it. So that's really interesting. So and then so why goblins specifically? That's a theme that you have going. Where did the goblin identity come from, and sort of what made you commit to it?
Sure. I've always so I like tabletop Dungeons and Dragons,
Okay.
and so I've always been nerdy, I guess you could say, or really enjoy those types of games where you get to role play a character, be in a party, go on adventures, and so and I've always been a fan of fantasy worlds in general. Big fan of obviously Tolkien. Read all of his books and other authors as well. So I've always been big into fantasy, and I got to know goblins through those worlds and Dungeons and Dragons first, and then I kind of transitioned, I guess, into being pretty big into Warhammer. And
Okay.
Warhammer has the Greenskins faction, which has the orcs and the goblins, right? And
Oh,
so I really like playing those. And then, um, much later, Warhammer Online came out, and that had different playable factions. And one of them was the Greenskins, and you could be either a goblin shaman or a goblin squid herder, I think. And I chose to be a goblin shaman, and that's where Skwatz was born. Like my
wow.
first goblin shaman in that game was called Skwatz, and so I kind of carried that name. And when I found out about Monsters and Memories, I saw they had playable goblins, and I'm like, this is great because I get to continue a character that I'm already familiar with, and just kind of take it further. Like, what would he be like if he was in a completely different fantasy world? So,
Okay, interesting. Very interesting, actually. That's fascinating. Okay, so my next question is, so from your perspective, and it's actually cool that so you were into goblins long before Monsters and Memories. Nice. I remember well, they're generally not nice, but in EverQuest they especially weren't nice. So what do it, in your opinion, what do goblins bring to the table that other races don't? Since goblins are a playable race, what sort of racial strengths or weaknesses would you want them to have so they feel right to you? And well, Yeah, so answer that, but I don't want to throw too much at you.
No, you're good. I don't think I'm too picky. Like I wouldn't be bothered if the fantasy goes away from what I imagine, right? But one thing that's kind of not bothered me, but I guess it would I wish it was different, is that over time there haven't been that many games that allow you to play as a goblin or even goblin adjacent. Like there's I think the amount of games that you can play as you can count with one hand.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so when I saw that it was a playable race for Monsters and Memories, I was very excited. And I do like that. I don't know about racial traits. Like, it wouldn't bother me if they take it either way, but I do enjoy the fact that they're actually like a group of creatures that have their own, like, ways, culture, language, things like that. I think a lot of times, and this happened in EverQuest too, but that's normal because they were mobs that you would fight, right?
hmm,
But a lot of times they get kind of like reduced to um, unintelligible monsters that just kind of go nah, and they just attack you. But like
yeah,
there's more stuff to explore there, so I think that's what I enjoy the most is being
yeah,
able to actually explore them as a group of people per se.
yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting too because yeah, I don't, to my knowledge, they haven't been explored like they could be in a lot of these MMOs. What do you think would be a good innate ability that goblins could have that would be not too broken, but it would be maybe hilarious and useful? Wondering if you have any ideas there. And what do you think about, so like they're gonna eventually add deep gnomes and deep dwarves. How do you feel about the idea of like that kind of variant, maybe like deep goblins or swamp goblins in some other biome, or maybe even aquatic goblins? Do you remember Lake of Ill Omen in EverQuest, how you could kind of go down to Vexar and there was like those bloodgill goblins? I always thought that was kind of cool. So it'd be interesting if they explore that option in Monsters and Memories. And well, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I think right now, if I remember correctly, I think they have greed as one of their
Oh,
like
okay.
racial abilities in Monsters and Memories.
Oh, cool.
Um, I could do with a different variation. I know like greed and money and gold is associated a lot, but I feel like there could be other things um, that have more to do with like dexterity or agility in combat or even cunning.
Yeah.
Because at least the goblins from the Monsters and Memories world are actually relatively intelligent creatures. So I could see them having something that helps with that. As far as, well, I'm biased, but I would love to have other versions of goblins, obviously, because I just like the race. So I think having variations of that would be cool. Um, my argument would also be like we always have so many different types of elves, like high elf, half
Yeah.
elf. Well, I guess it's different in monsters, but like deep elf, wood elf, and so I feel like elves take up a bunch of spaces that could be occupied by um, other races. It doesn't necessarily have to be a goblin, but like you could even have frogs in there, right? So,
Yeah.
or rats or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, um, I would be down. I've actually seen, I watch a lot of Goblin do art. So he's done concepts of deep goblins. They look pretty gnarly. Uh, I don't know if they're ever going to be playable though. They might just be monsters you fight, but they're pretty crazy looking. So I
That's
would be
cool.
down to play one if I could.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Just we're gonna circle back to EverQuest just for a little bit, and so I wanted to ask you why EverQuest? What is it about EverQuest that kind of still lives rent free in your head compared to everything else that you could play today? I was looking at your your Twitch stats, and it seems like you've only streamed EverQuest and Monsters and Memories. So I just think that's really cool that you're dialed in specifically on these two.
Yeah, I mean, I've played other stuff too. I just think my channel specifically is relatively new, and so I've kind of been on the MMO uh, gameplay experience. So I haven't delved too much outside of that, but there's a lot of genres I like. For example, roguelikes are a type of game I really enjoy. All kinds, like roguelike RPGs. It can
Oh yeah,
be roguelike action games. It depends
yeah,
on the variation, right? Um,
awesome.
if I had to say, back when EverQuest first came out, MMOs in general in that time were about inhabiting a world, right? And it was a lot like, and I think this was their goal, right? They were trying to take the Dungeons and Dragons experience into what would this look like as a video game, and I think that's what called to me, the fact that you could inhabit a fantasy world and just kind of make your own story, if you will. Sure, you played and you hunted monsters, you leveled up, all that stuff, but I think, yeah, the elements that grabbed me the most were the moments where you felt connected, where you were like inhabiting a world, you were meeting different people, you were going on adventures, you were creating um, unironically memories, which is in the in this new game
Yeah,
in the title. But I think
yeah,
that's
I
that's
love that.
a I think they were very smart with that title because I think what made EverQuest special, and this goes for any of those games of that time, is that you had um, emergent gameplay where like the player something happens and then the player reacts to what happens, and that combination creates a really interesting memory. So I think that's what it is for me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Do you have any EverQuest moments that you'll never forget? Whether that's like a win, a disaster, something hilarious, any kind of camp stories or raid stories that really stand out to you?
Oh, I mean, I have so many. I don't know if I would know how to pick one, but I can try. I will say, and this could lead maybe into another topic, which is I remember the first time that I played just getting lost entirely because I didn't know where anything was. And for those that are unfamiliar, when EverQuest came out, there weren't like any maps in the game or anything like that. So
Yeah.
you had to kind of figure out your own way. And so I struggle with that, and that led me to discovering a whole bunch of things that I think I wouldn't have discovered if I hadn't gone stumbling around. You know, like going into a camp
Right.
that I wasn't supposed to, or going to a zone that was like too high for me, or stuff like that. Those are the things that kind of stay with me, and also the kind of funny moments that just happen randomly, but you kind of create a storyline in your head. So, for example,
Yeah.
this actually happened to me recently, but I was at the Sarnak fort and I had pulled a mob, but it kind of disappeared. I guess it pathed wrong or something. And then
Yeah.
I accidentally aggroed another mob, and so when I was fighting that one, the other one suddenly appeared from behind and started attacking me. So it kind of felt like an ambush, like he had waited for the right moment, right? But that was just
Yeah.
in my head, right? It's
Yeah.
not really what happened in the game, but I think those moments is the kind of little stories that you start to form in your head. I think that's what makes it special. And MMOs now have deviated so far away from that. Not all of them, but a lot of them,
Yeah.
where you're kind of driven through the story that the developers want you to follow, the levels that the developers want you to follow, the zones the developers want you to follow.
Yeah.
So you're on this like track, and so you can't really deviate too much from that track. And I
Yeah.
think so that would be my main answer. That like games like EverQuest allowed you to explore and play however you wanted. Essentially.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that. That's beautiful. And it actually reminds me, the because EverQuest was so imperfect in a way, that's what makes it perfect, I think, and just the uniqueness of it all, just those fun little moments and stories that we craft. It's really interesting. It all just kind of plays into it, and another thing that got me thinking while you were talking about it was just how all the zones, and Sean has talked about this in his streams too, like certain developers that worked on it, they would say, okay, you know what, Squats, you create this zone, this person is going to create this zone, and then I'm going to create this zone, and everyone kind of had their own little take on it. That's why the world just feels so like wacky, I guess, in a way. Maybe there's a lot of uniqueness to it for sure, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was replaying it recently on Quorum,
Yeah,
and the experience is so different if you start as a wood elf, right? And you're right underneath Kelethin.
yeah,
And you kind of have some mobs there, and you can go to Crushbone, and you have spires and all this other stuff. But like if you do a troll, for example, which I've played, you start in the swamp, and the swamp is like completely different,
yes,
and it's full of water. So if you don't know how to navigate it, or if you're not a large character, you're going to be swimming a lot, and that can be dangerous because like you might be needing to run away from a monster, and then you get stuck in the water, right? So like there's
yeah,
different nuances to every zone, I think, for sure.
yeah. Do you know what fascinates me too is you hit on this a little bit is that modern MMOs now just kind of seem to be on rails, and back then, even though the technology wasn't quite there yet, people were still able to do like such creative things, and there's so much variety. Yeah, like you say, and then you go to the ogre city, for example, Ogok, and there's like dwarves that are all like, you know, just like hung up to dry and cooked and whatnot. And then yeah, like if you go to like the dwarf city, Kelethin, it's hard to get around as a bigger character. You would get your head stuck on doorways and things of that nature. There's just so much variety in the world where at a time where the technology wasn't even there yet, where computers couldn't even run it yet. It's just the ambition is what really stands out to me as well.
Yeah, and I think some of those things like were intentional, and then some of those things are just like
Yeah,
things that just happened in the moment, and that made it special, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive into monsters and memories now. This is going to be sort of the big part of it here because I know that's your thing as well as mine. So when did Monsters and Memories first grab your attention, and what was the hook? Like how did you kind of find out about it, get invested in it? What was that like for you?
So for the longest time, I had been searching for an MMO to satisfy what I wanted to play, and I just couldn't find it. I mean, not that I haven't played MMOs I've enjoyed. There's been quite a few, but I was looking for, I guess that experience that was not necessarily um, the same as EverQuest, but that gave me similar feelings. That allowed me to explore, grow my character in the way that I wanted to, as opposed to going down the same path as everybody else, right? So
Hmm.
um, I had already known about Pantheon, obviously, because Pantheon is a project that's been in development for a very long time.
Hmm.
So I was aware of it, right? And then it finally became playable or available to play for me. And I remember I tried it, and this isn't like a slight at the developers. I know the game development's like super hard. And I don't know how to make a game myself, right? So
Yeah.
what do I know, right? But it just there was something in that game that didn't 100% click. Really hard for me to explain. It's just like a feel thing.
Hmm.
And I remember mentioning this to somebody, and there was a comment on a YouTube video that said like it was like a video on Pantheon, and in the comment it said, "Have you guys checked out Monsters and Memories?" And I was like, I don't know what that is. So I looked for it, and then I found their YouTube channel, and I started looking into it. And the first time I watched, I think it was Sean playing with Nick, Cleric and Necro, if I remember correctly. It just watching that, it just clicked. It really hard to explain what it was. It might have been the combination of the visuals with the sound design, the particle effects of the spells. It felt like the vibe was correct. Like that was
Yeah.
the game that
Awesome.
that was the game I was looking for essentially.
Awesome. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. And actually, like for me, I was playing one of the. So I had known about Sean for a while, because I got sucked into Project 1999 EverQuest. That was kind of my big thing. I should add that I had kind of forgotten about EverQuest. I played until about Depths of Dark Hollow expansion or so, and I went on to like World of Warcraft and a bunch of other games, but I never really forgot EverQuest and how all that felt. And so my buddy Kazrax really just hit me up one day. He was really fired up and he was like, "Man, you have to check out Project 1999. Trust me, it's amazing." So I got sucked in, and this was around 2012 or so. But then I just, I was playing Project 1999 for a while, and I was just like very curious. I was like, "Hey, is there any like former EverQuest people, or is there anyone like still talking about this or whatever?" And this was around the time, yeah, like 2015-ish. I streamed EverQuest actually. Funny enough, I should have stuck with it, but I didn't. And but anyway, I found out there's this whole community of people that are like still into EverQuest. That's how I found out about Sean and kind of watched his streams and whatnot. And I was watching like early developments of the game, and it was interesting. I was kind of following it for a while, but so it's my dream for my wife, Miss Heim, to get into these kind of games with me. She's never played. So we jumped into the November 2024 playtest. That was my first playtest actually. And so it was kind of laggy at the time. It was clunky. They still had like some placeholder stuff that they were working on. And actually we played like maybe the last 2 hours to maybe an hour and a half, and Miss Heim hated it. Like she just didn't understand the concept of like auto attacking and just getting your spells. She wanted it to be more kind of like action based, and she'd be hitting buttons and stuff because we're playing a lot of Valheim at the time. But anyway, it was just really funny. She told me if MMOs are like this, I don't want to play, and it kind of bummed me out. And then it's a long story, but I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just wait for a little bit. But it did click with me too, like the spell effects, the way the classes were, the city, the music, the ambience. It just all clicked, and yeah, I'm just glad that I actually released a video. So one of my things on the channel is I talk about my experience with the playtest, and that very first one, Sean and Chinny and everybody kind of chimed in. They were like, "Oh, that's okay if you don't like it." But anyway, really nice guys, and I'm glad we discovered the game for sure.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you're either in or you're out, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily 100% tied to having played EverQuest because talking in their Discord, I've met quite a few people that have never played EverQuest before and that are really enjoying Monsters and Memories. So I think there's
yeah,
something there about the core experience that appeals to people beyond just nostalgia or whatever people may call it.
yeah,
I think there's a game style, right?
yeah,
But I can totally get people not being into it either. Like, I think the funny thing is that MMOs are more, I think, um, in the style of something I think uh, your partner would enjoy because they're usually more action oriented. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just different styles.
yeah.
I just think that this style of MMO that got pioneered back in the day, there's too little of it now. A lot of it got kind of watered down over the years.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, the early pioneers that kind of paved the way. A lot of those guys are largely gone, and a lot of the rough edges got sanded off, as it were. And actually, that's another interesting point. And I realize this as I talk to you. You're the fourth guest that I've had on the podcast, and I realize in my wild fantasy, for me, the natural progression is like EverQuest, Monsters and Memories. But there's a lot that happened kind of in between, and not everybody coming into this is an EverQuest veteran, So just something for me to think about as I kind of hammer out some of the kinks here.
No,
Um,
for sure. And I think it's undeniable to say that World of Warcraft had a profound impact on the genre. And
Absolutely.
even though I do think, Classic started off as an experience that was closer to the traditional MMOs, I do think it had already started to deviate, making it a little bit more actiony. A little, it's kind of hard to know sometimes what the genres are like, but I feel like it was more MMO action game, less MMO RPG in the way that we were used to role playing games to be, right? And so I think that over time, and because it appealed to so many people across the world, millions subscribed, um, games wanted to get that same success. And I think in chasing that success, they slowly started to remove more and more of the RPG part of MMO. Uh, and I think that's for me what changed. I think I started focusing more on the player experience and how do we do this like theme park style MMO.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that changed, and I'm not saying change is bad. I just think it's good to have a healthy mix of experiences, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what is for you personally? What would Monsters and Memories have to do to be that forever game for you? I think a lot of it we've touched on. For me as an EverQuest player, it really hits all those all right boxes. So that would be my answer. But I was curious if you had a perspective on that.
Um, I feel like the game's not out, so I guess I'm jumping the gun, but I kind of feel like it already is. Um, as long
Same.
as as long as the developers stick to their core principles, which it really feels like they are, and the game continues to move forward, and they keep adding new interesting zones or new classes to play, or
Hmm.
I think I don't need a whole lot because I think the base, the foundation is there. I think the foundation for you to make fun storylines and fun experiences playing with people and all this other stuff is already there. And I think people forget one other aspect. It's not just it being an open world and things happening and you not being the main character is part of the enjoyment, but there's
Hmm.
also something that I think people forgot, which is old MMOs used to make you heavily rely on other people. And while that can have its drawbacks, like if there's nobody on and you're looking for a group and you can't find somebody, sure, that's a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, when there's a lot of systems that depend on one another, or a lot of you depend on people for
Hmm.
different things, it also makes players be more social with each other
Yeah.
and rely on each other a lot more. And you make more, like, my experience at least has been, I've made more friends playing EverQuest and Monsters and Memories than any other MMO. And I played World of Warcraft way more years than I
Yeah.
played EverQuest, I think, just because of the lifespan of that game. But
Yeah.
I've made more friends in EverQuest than I have over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Same for me. And I'm actually kind of a shy person myself, and that forced kind of social reliance really draws it out of me. So I used to play a lot of Final Fantasy 14. Believe it or not, I probably have the most hours in that MMO just because at the time of my life that I was playing it in college and whatnot. But nowadays it's at the point, as you said, everything's on rails, theme park, whatever. The game kind of started off beautiful with the being reborn and all that, but just lately, like these last couple expansions, you just insta queue to a dungeon, you go through it, the formula is there. Every single dungeon is generally like three bosses. You kind of go through it. It auto queues you up with people from other servers sometimes. You have no reason to talk to them. You have no reason to, know them. The loot pops up, it's need or greed, and you just leave at the end. And a lot of times, no one even says anything. So, yeah, I definitely love all the forced social interaction, classes relying on each other. That's something that I hope never changes, and I really appreciate with this dev team is that they know what they're doing for sure, but they're sticking to their guns, sticking to their principles, and not just kind of caving at every single idea or suggestion that someone throws their way. It's like, this is the game, this is our design philosophy. It may not be for you, but you know Sean was actually just talking about this in his VOD, like, hey, this is a steakhouse and we make steak here, but if you want to have tacos and stuff, there's this great taco place down the road. You can go there if you want. But yeah, so cool. So what's the most promising thing for Monsters and Memories right now for you, and do you have like a big concern or fear as it grows?
Mm, that's a good question. I think the most promising thing for me as an enjoyer of the genre, and also, like I said, an old school EverQuest, even though um, I do want to make it clear, Eminem really pulls from a lot of different old school games and not just EverQuest.
Hmm.
That's the one that people mostly identify because it's the one that's visibly like easiest to spot, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But there's elements from Mud games which I really appreciate, text adventures, stuff like that. Features from games like Dark Age of Camelot, from Asheron's Call. There's a lot of ideas baked in there that are blended together in a very interesting way. But I would say the most exciting thing for me is, or the most promising thing, is that it's a whole new world. Not to quote the song, but
Yeah.
it's a whole new world of like places to discover, like enemies to fight, lore to uncover. Like it's uncharted territory. I think that's the thing
Yeah.
that I'm most excited about, right?
Yeah.
And I forgot what the second part of that
So
was.
much variety, so much variety. And I always say this. I know, obviously, and the game is being developed and polished still. Um, you know, yeah, I should note that as of the recording of this video, we're about 6 months out from the early access. The second question was, what's your biggest concern or fear as Monsters and Memories grows?
Uh, I don't really know. I guess I would say like my fear would be that they would change too much of the core experience based on player input, but it doesn't seem like they're the kind of people to do that.
Yeah.
It seems like they're really focused on making the game that they want to make, and they're in a position where they can make the game that they want to make, which is I think also a rare situation. Not everybody can have the set of circumstances that this team has in order
Yes.
to make it work. So I think they appreciate that, and
That's
so
that's
I guess that
beautiful.
would be my concern. Maybe um, if the game is too popular, like more popular than they expect, I imagine the servers and stuff are going to struggle the first few weeks. But I think that's normal for any MMO. So I don't know. I'm not too concerned. As long as they kind of stick. I want them to stick to what they want to make, but also be flexible enough that if something is actually not working, as in it's like they're losing players and they're losing players. And I think Sean has talked about this. Something that is very contentious, nobody likes it other than somebody on the team, that they're flexible enough to maybe look at it, right? But not necessarily change it right away just because some people don't like it. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're really good at filtering out input and data, and yeah, as you said, they're not like beholden to any kind of investor group or studio or anything like that. So it's really interesting to me. Um, yeah, well, we can kind of gloss over this one. What's one thing you hope that the devs never change because it's core to the magic? Do you have anything that's like just kind of like a hard line for you that must be there, I suppose?
I don't know. I don't know if there is one because I think as long as the game stays open world feeling, as in you don't have to like be in this zone doing this quest with this item, like you can kind of pick and choose where you're gonna go. As long as that stays open, I think I'm okay with them altering a few things. I don't know if there's a feature. Do you have something that would be like a
Yes, for
line in the
me,
sand?
yeah, no, that's great. I'm not a fan of instancing as much as, it's rough sometimes, like the competition. For example, like when the servers were up, it's kind of tough to find a camp to level at. But I do like the friction of the open world and how, you see other groups there and other adventurers maybe competing for raid targets and stuff. But maybe that's the natural order of things. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the answer is. But for me, I'd rather not have instancing if it was up to me.
Yeah, I understand. I haven't thought about it too much, but I did experience that at least for the public playtests when at the first few hours really is because like, a lot of people try something new and then maybe it's not for them or they don't give it enough time, right? So
Yeah.
the I've seen that this is only really a thing the first few hours of the playtest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those first few hours, it's really hard to find the spot that isn't taken.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that could be a thing that they need to look at, but I'm not really sure what would be the best way to handle it. I know modern MMOs or even World of Warcraft now does like phasing, right? So like you're in the same area, but you
Yeah.
only see certain amount of people there. I guess that's something they could do, but I'm not sure if that's against the core philosophy of what they want because I think they want those like they have a play nice policy where things like camp disputes are in there as part of the rules, like of what you can and cannot do. But um,
Yeah.
I think they kind of want that sort of friction to be there, right? Where like, oh no, this camp is taken. Like this is, I don't know. I guess it's part of the experience, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, it's interesting now that we're talking about it. Kungan was streaming and he brought like, 1,000 plus people into the mix. And, that kind of put a strain on the infrastructure. It created a flood of new people wanting to try the game. And it's good data to have for sure. And so like what, and I was just thinking about this too. A lot of us now are because we're talking about old design philosophy. What's one thing that we hope they preserve, because it's part of the magic. But as a lot of us now are like older, we have, careers, families, significant others, whatever. It's really hard to devote time to a lot of these games that I guess a more modern audience would find it sort of tedious, I guess you could say. And it's like and I'm not sure what the answer is either. I'm just kind of speculating out loud, but it's like how do you balance, rating and actually, like progressing in the game in any meaningful way without having to spend, 10, 11, 12 hours a day doing it. It's a difficult thing to answer. Do you have any thoughts about this? Sort of like the old school grind of a game that kind of has these old design
Yeah.
philosophies.
No, I do. I think this might not be a satisfying answer for everybody watching, but I do think that part of it, since the game is going to be the game, right? So like you can obviously give feedback, but at the end of the day, whether it be Monsters and Memories or any other game, right? The developers are going to make the calls as to what happens, what gets changed, what stays the same. And so as a player, I think a lot of the times the best thing you can do is kind of align your perspective in order to enjoy the game more. And so when I go into Monsters and Memories or I go into EverQuest, I don't actually worry too much about like I know this is a priority for some people and it's completely fine, but like my priority is not like okay, I'm going to log in and I have to as get 60 as efficiently as possible, as fast as possible. Like that's not the mindset I kind of go into. I usually go into like what am I going to experience today? Like what things, what kind of adventures, what kind of mishaps, what kind of things am I going to explore today? And if you look at it that way, then time is not that much of an issue because and this could be a being old thing, but one thing that I found is that a lot of us rush right to that end game. But when you come back and think about it, a lot of the enjoyment is really on the journey, and that sounds
Yeah.
very philosophical. Like you could apply that to life, I think. But I
Yeah.
think the journey is the more interesting part, and we often want to skip through it so quickly. Um,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
So I think that's what I would say. There's actually, um, off the top of my head, only one channel I can think about, but there was a YouTuber who actually made a video on Monsters and Memories, and the video was called something like "What to Do in Monsters and Memories When You Don't Only Have a Little Bit of Time to Play," and he gives you like 6 or 7 different examples of mini little experiences you can have
Hmm.
when you don't have a lot of time to play. And I thought that was pretty smart. That was pretty smart because like yeah, it depends on how you play and how you focus on it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that sounds familiar. I think that might have come up across my feed. I think I might know what you're talking about. And yeah, another thing too that we can touch on is like, back in the day, like a lot of these older games, that was the social hub. So basically it was like social media before social media. You log in and just kind of check to see if your friend is on and you kind of do all the communication in the game. But one of the ideas that I have, I mean, obviously, now people can communicate with each other outside of the game on Discord and whatnot, so raids can be organized faster. We can all agree like, hey, let's form this static group and just log in at this time and just get it done. But I'm kind of with you, and that's kind of the approach that I have as well. Um, I just like log in, I turn on the stream, and whatever happens, happens. I'm a huge fan of organic interactions, and I try not to plan stuff ahead of time. Just, if someone wants to hang out from the chat or if someone runs past in game, we can start something up. But yeah, you're right. It's the journey really. That's the most meaningful for sure. Um, Okay, so there's a couple things here. How do you feel about the map debate that seems to be really big in the community? Some people think that we should have a map provided by the by the dev team, or not. And what's your take on that? I know they mentioned maybe having like a not GPS map or like a goblin drawn map that's kind of crude or rudimentary, or maybe even like a cartography skill, but just want to get your perspective on the map thing.
Sure. I'd actually be curious to know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
I will say that I'm open to like when you were talking about systems that they can or cannot change. That's a system I would be okay with them tweaking to a certain extent. I'm not against either or. I will say
Yeah.
this for whatever reason, I am not. I'm spatially challenged. I'm just going to say it that way. So I get lost very easily in real life too. Like if I didn't have Google Maps or something like that, I'd probably be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I'm
Same.
not a person that creates mental images very easily of like places.
Hmm.
So I do struggle with that. But at
Hmm.
the same time, um, I do understand the core philosophy of it. And I found that if I rely on other skills, or if I work on other skills that I do have, I can kind of circumvent that. So, and this is where like other people come into place. So, like for example, if I don't know how to get somewhere, I might actually join a group, and they can, I can follow them, or they can tell me where to go, or I could maybe rely on another class. If it's a druid, they can port me to the place I need to go. So, like I try to find other solutions to the problem. And of course, I do find that over time, as I repeat it, for example, I've now started in Night Harbor many times, and
Hmm.
so I don't think I have a perfect map of the city. It's a really big place, but I do know where certain things are at. Like I know where to sell for the merchants. I know
Hmm.
where to get my
Yeah.
class spells. So like I do think that forms over time. So I do get the philosophy behind it, but I personally would not be against if we had like a not a super detailed, but like a very rough, kind of like in Quorum, where you have like it looks like it's a map drawn in crayon and a sheet of paper. Like I would be fine with that, just to
Yeah.
have like a general landmark kind of thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a wonderful answer. I would say like I'm not personally like super invested in the map thing. I mean, I think as long as it doesn't take resources away from like actually, creating some of these amazing cities and like other things that they want to plan, I wouldn't want them to spend like too much time and resources on the like I don't know what the logistics are of doing it. I'm okay if we have it or not. So I mean, I'm kind of spoiled because I know a lot of excellent druids. That can just come get me and and I try to learn landmarks and stuff like that, but for me personally, like in this game in particular, I love the ambience. It's probably my favorite thing about the game, like the lighting, the way the sun comes up and you can just kind of see it. And I'm trying to kind of mentally like, okay, this is south, this is east-ish. Like there's this huge rock over here, and I remember to the right of that is like this. So I, either way, but I think just to keep it, if they do eventually add a map, I guess I wouldn't want it to be a GPS map. Like a crude hand-drawn map would work totally fine, I guess is where I stand on it. I'm not like too, just too, I'm not going to get too spun up over it, basically. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
I'm not like I don't feel too strongly about it per
yeah,
se, so I'm fine with whatever they decide. I actually think, in terms of an opinion, I do think that the idea of having a cartography skill where you're like drawing a map that might not be perfect, but you're like having a profession that's tied to it, I think that could be cool.
yeah,
Especially because then that profession is extremely valuable. You get to maybe draw maps and sell them to players or things like that. I don't really know how it's going to work, but
yeah,
I don't think they know yet either. But I think it's an interesting concept, and so I would leave it either way. And I would also say, and this is something we talked about before we started recording, is people will always find a way. So
hmm,
we already have player created maps of different locations anyway. So
yeah,
uh, I wouldn't feel too bad if they never if they choose to never include maps, I would be fine because I can still, if I want to see something, I can still open up a map somebody made and take a look at the area, get familiar with it, and then just close it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then, Kratos and I were talking about how, maybe even like you could have a profession where you could maybe like sacrifice like one of your, like bag slots or something to maybe like carry like a tent or something that you could put so where you are sheltered during a storm or basically tie in some of this stuff. Like you could have some kind of quality of life, but you have to have a trade-off, and then that would kind of put more emphasis on that profession or that player. Like, hey, I won't be able to carry as much loot, but maybe I can do this for you guys. Maybe I can have a map or some kind of shelter and whatnot. I think that would be an interesting idea to incorporate some of the trade skills into it, I suppose. Um,
I think that
I
could be
f-
cool. Yeah, a game that
yeah,
makes me think of, although not in the best way, but I think these devs would do it well. Is Black Desert Online. So Black Desert Online has camps, Uh, the bad part is that they're tied to uh, uh, cosmetics that you can buy that like increase your experience gain. So it's pay to win. I don't
Mhm.
like that aspect of it. But thinking about the gameplay side of it, in that game you can build your own camp, and then you go there and you can rest in that camp, so you get rested.
Mhm.
Uh, Maybe it's a little bit less than if you're like in town and at an inn or whatever, but it's like you get a little bit of rested, and then sometimes if you upgrade your camp by playing, you can even have like an NPC there to do small kind of crafting, not all of it, but like partial. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff you can do with it, I think.
I love that. Yeah. By the way, I love the idea of rested experience. I think that's a really wonderful idea. Final Fantasy 14 did something similar where if you log in inside of like a city or like a camp, essentially, you would accumulate rested time the longer you're off. And I forget how much that number is, but it's like, let's say I can only play once every, 2 weeks or something. It's just like a nice little incentive for people to maybe help catch people up, I suppose. I think that's a cool concept. That wouldn't be too much of a, I suppose, like a departure from the old school philosophy. Um, just a couple other things here, I guess, that are kind of decisive. How do you feel about chat bubbles? Do you have an opinion about the chat bubble debate too? That also seems to be a thing that people. The reason I said it is there's a YouTube comment recently that said, "Oh, this game needs to have chat bubbles." What do you think about this?
Um, I like to think that I'm a pretty reasonable person. So, so it's not like I'm going to be super angry. I prefer without the chat bubbles,
Me too.
personally.
Yeah, me too.
I think it actually would take me off of the experience because it would feel like when you're
Yeah,
playing the game, even though you have UI elements and you can hide them, there's a lot of immersion happening. And I think having like a little bubble pop up on top of the character, like it's a comic book, would kind of take me out of that immersion, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, me too. I feel the same way. And I'm just already thinking of ways people could troll. You could just like stream snipe somebody and have like some ridiculous bubble with like, underscores or something and just take up the whole screen. I don't know. It gets to a point where,
Yeah, and people have done that. I think World of Warcraft has it, don't they? To a certain
yeah,
degree, I don't know, but
I think
I've
so.
seen like bigger streamers where they log in and there's a bunch of people around them, obviously following them and like yelling all sorts of obscenities, and you can see
Yeah,
them because it's popping up in the. It's not just in the chat, but it's
yeah,
like in the thing, so it can
yeah,
be a little bit disruptive. If they really, really
yeah.
wanted to have them, my compromise would be like have it be optional so that I can turn it off.
Mm-hmm,
That would be my compromise. Like if you want to have chat bubbles, let people who want them have them,
mm-hmm.
and but I will have them off. I prefer not to.
Me too, actually. Me too. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna continue along here, and this is very interesting for me personally. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I'm not really sure I know the answer. I'd be very curious to see what like developers think about this, but so from your perspective, do you think that MMO classes are basically solved at this point? Tank, heal, DPS support. Do you think that everything is done that can be done? And if there is room to innovate, where is that room? Is it class identity, mechanics, social reliance, itemization, utility, group roles, that kind of thing? Sorry, my cat is.
I don't know if the roles. Um, I mean, I could be wrong because we won't know until it happens, right? But I think the roles maybe not more than those four, just because you can always argue, okay, this is support, this is DPS, this is a healer. But I do think in terms of the class itself, there is more room to explore there. I do think um, a lot of MMOs, and this is also true for Monsters and Memories to a certain extent,
Hmm.
do stick to those classic, tried and true classes, like fighter, ranger, stuff like that, wizard, and that makes sense. I mean, those are staples for a reason. They started all the way back again in Dungeons and Dragons and even before then. So I get why those exist and they should be there for the people that love them. But I do think there's fun combinations that haven't been tried that could be interesting ideas. I know the devs actually have a list of classes that they thought of,
Oh,
or even
interesting.
ideas that players have submitted on Discord, and they have a list of them. So you might have like a chloromancer or a shield bearer or stuff like that.
Oh,
There's
very
like
cool.
interesting concepts in there that just haven't been done, I don't think.
Hmm.
And so, or not maybe in that same way. So I do think there's different classes to explore.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how
Very
you feel.
cool. Very cool. I mean, I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's interesting because then it just kind of gets into balance, and I've seen that in other MMOs where things get homogenized, as they say, where everything just deteriorates into just one or two buttons and everything kind of feels the same. But what I really like about Monsters and Memories is just how unique all the classes feel, and I'm really curious just to see where all that goes. Like I think the one that's an enchanter, and I'm really sorry, my cat is just gonna keep crying relentlessly if I don't. Um, but so um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Actually, would you hang on one second? I'm so sorry. I think I need to let her out because
Yeah, you're good.
it's just gonna be way too distracting. I'm so sorry. Give me just one second. Sorry. So where were we? The class balance, if there's room to innovate. The only other blurb that I was gonna add was like the class that is a just kind of the enchanter and the tank. I think that's really cool. The spellblade is a really interesting class too. And then I'm curious to see like the archer and the ranger kind of go their separate paths. Like to me, that's a class that's kind of similar, or two classes that are similar. But then I got to thinking about it, and I think if you think about it historically, like basically a ranger is like a druid and also a warrior, kind of. There's nothing specific with. I mean, like, and they just naturally became kind of you know known attributed to bows, I suppose. But like what about the idea of an archer could have maybe like, crossbows and like just other things, just being kind of like an infantryman up on like a castle ramparts or something and with a different type of ammo. Like I think that's really cool for sure. So I guess there is room to innovate, but so far I really like all the diversity between all the classes. I think it's cool whenever so like I've played games where everybody just kind of feels and looks the same, and it's hard to tell like, okay, is this person a cleric or is this person like a like a, I don't know, a mage. Like it's so hard to tell. But I think this game really nails it for sure.
Yeah, I can see how having too much could create some sort of bloat. Um, but I do think there's interesting combinations that just haven't been explored. I think a lot of the time, even though Dungeons and Dragons is an amazing game, it continues to be for a reason, right? And it kind of inspired so many other games after that. I do think that sometimes can be a limiting factor because people look back to D&D and they're like, well, this didn't exist that way in this manual, or goblins weren't like this in 1.0, so they shouldn't be like this in this game. And it's like, I do think that can be limiting sometimes because, like the world of Monsters and Memories, while inspired, is a completely new world, right? So I do think it's cool that they might take some creative liberties and change a few things and spice up the classes. Like I recently found out. Because I didn't really know, Monk in Monsters and Memories
Hmm.
is very distinct from EverQuest because you have
Oh,
these stances that you go into, and the stances proc different effects,
oh,
and so that
interesting.
makes the class very dynamic and I think more interesting.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Do you know what? Come to think of it, I actually haven't seen that many monks and monsters and memories, at least in my where I've been at in the game. I just haven't grouped with a whole lot of monks, to be honest. So that's interesting. I
I
almost,
haven't either, but I think
yeah,
it's because people come in with the expectation of what the class is based on the previous game.
yeah,
And so maybe they're not as drawn to it. Whereas, like, they know druids have buffs and heals and ports. I think that might also explain why some of the, not just because they need more to their kit, but the new classes don't have as many people playing them. Because I think, people go for the thing that they know first, right? So, like, if you've played a necromancer before, there might be things that are different, but you're gonna more or less get the hang of it
hmm hmm
pretty quickly. So I think people usually try to play the thing that they're familiar with first, and
yeah,
then they experiment.
yeah. And I suppose that's kind of something that I lean into sometimes is like, oh, it was like this in EverQuest, so it must be like this. So that's a misconception that I often have because EverQuest is kind of my baseline for a lot of stuff. But yeah, there's definitely been evolution since then for sure. And yeah, so that's really cool to see, because I mean, yeah, EverQuest wasn't perfect either. So there's definitely room to improve on all that stuff. Um, I wanted to ask you, this is slightly farther down the list, but since we're just on the topic of like classes and M&M, what is your angle specifically? Like when the game does release, are you going to be um, racing for world first or like leveling multiple classes or, focusing on grinding, crafting, maybe even just role playing as a goblin? Do you have like a specific focus in mind for when you're diving into the game? And also, like, what are you going to be playing as? Are you going to stick with your sort of current setup? I'm assuming you're going to be a goblin of some kind, but yeah, what are you kind of going to be focusing on specifically upon release?
Um, I guess the best way I could say it is I'm neither too casual a player nor am I too sweaty of a player, right? So I'm not interested in being like the first person to hit 60 or like to be in raids or things like that. I'm more about, like I said, the journey, the experience, having like not every day be the same in the MMO. I think is an important thing for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also a person that does play often when I can. I don't. It's not like I'm going to log in only 1 hour a week or something like that. But so I'm kind of in between. As for what my plans are, I am not the planning type. I'm more the impulsive type. So
hmm
this could always change. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, even the character that I start with, because it will really depend on if I get to play during the alpha or the beta
hmm
with closed access or not. That will change my plans drastically because if I experience something in beta, for example, I might want to play something different for early access. So that will affect it. But more than likely, I will be playing one of three classes: Enchanter, Necromancer, or Bard. Now, the caveat about Bard is there are no Goblin Bards in the game currently, unless they add a quest for it later. I'm not really sure if they're going to.
hmm
Um, but I have a workaround for like a story kind of thing that I've thought up if they never get added. So like I have a workaround for it, but I don't know if I would start with that or not.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly. Yeah, for me, I kind of feel you. I'm the same way. I don't know if I'm gonna be like racing to get to 60 and whatnot because realistically, I don't have as much time as some of these other guys. I have more than an hour a week, but I also, I can't really afford to play like, 10 hours a day or whatnot. But yeah, I'm interested in rating. I'm interested in seeing what the quote unquote end game has to offer. But at the same time, like, I love how there's an focus on like small group content, that really means a lot to me. So I'm just really excited for the journey. And even I was just talking about this on stream as a rogue. I'm really interested in the rogue class, but I'm very much reliant on just I'm at the mercy of whoever's on, whoever I kind of come across with, because it's so incredibly time consuming to level as a rogue by yourself. It's not impossible to solo. It's just it's not ideal, you know. And that's a class I'm interested in, but I'm also a little bit wary because it's I worry about finding a group, and streaming does help with that for sure. But yeah, just some thoughts there.
Speaking of, since you've
Yeah.
gotten to play Rogue, what do you like about it, and what would you say is the same, but also maybe different from EverQuest Rogue?
Um, oh, so that's an excellent question. One thing that I love about not only rogues, just monsters and memories in general, but just yeah, first impressions, you get your stuff very early on. By the time you get to level 4 or 5, like you generally have an idea of what that class is gonna be. Whereas I think like in EverQuest, don't quote me on this, but I think you get backstab at level 10. It's either 9 or 10. But if you're leveling, like I mean, those early levels without being buffed, twinked, whatever, like that can be such a slog, like those first 10 or so levels before you get your stuff. So that's what I appreciate about Monsters and Memories. It gives you your stuff almost immediately. And but one thing that I've seen for the rogue class, as far as like the evolution of it, is they sort of blend into some very light sort of CC capability, so they can basically lock a mob out of the fight. They can incapacitate a mob or stun a mob, kind of. So I think that's kind of interesting. I don't like playing CC though. I like the idea of just being a hard hitting class, just focused on just burning down a target as fast as possible. I think that would be ideal for me. I'd like to see where poisons go in the game, like the idea of certain poisons and stuff. I think would be really cool. Um, and I always talk about this too. So the other classes, they have really nice effects, spell effects, combat effects. I think they're really cool. Like the bard songs and just all the buffs and the sounds, and it's really great. Rogues are very basic in that way. They don't really have anything flashy. And my idea is, I think, so they have a self haste ability, but I like the idea of maybe when you proc double attack or maybe eventually triple attack if they add it. You know how in anime, sometimes when a character is moving so fast, there's kind of like an after shadow. Let's say it looks like your arm is actually moving really slow, or there's like 4 or 5 of your arms, but it's because you're actually going really fast. I'd like to see some kind of effect like that, like something flashy. It's just on my wish list. It'll probably never happen, but um, what else? Yeah, I mean that's just an observation that I get is like in Monsters and Memories, the class kit, you have access to it very early on, so you can decide whether or not you're gonna really enjoy that class. Um, but yeah, I'm excited, and my dream is just to have like a rogue maybe, and then from there I can maybe accumulate some loot. I really want to play a cleric eventually. I think a cleric would be fun, and then maybe some sort of tank, maybe like a shadow knight or something would be cool. That's kind of my sort of first pass at it. Curious about
All right.
Necromancer as well. Necromancer is one of those iconic classes from back in the day, very different than a rogue and very solo friendly. So that's kind of an option that I have. But thematically, like okay, Necromancers are awesome, but yeah, for me thematically, I guess it's not something I'm super interested in, but they're a badass class for sure.
No, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that, whenever you talk to somebody, they have their own preferences and their
Yeah,
classes that they're very into and their theme or fantasy that they want to
yeah.
live out
And I
with the
love that.
characters. So I think that's fine.
And
Yeah,
I love that how we all have a sorry to interrupt you. Like we all have passion for the game and we're interested in it, but we all kind of have different styles and perspectives, and just things we lean more towards. It's a beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it also creates for a healthier game experience because you're not going to have everybody playing the same class, and that's also why I value that. And I did see some of that in the discussion forums, and I'm glad that they're not listening to that kind of feedback. There seems to be, some pushback because some modern MMOs allow you to basically do everything uh, within your given class. So like you'll have, and then World of Warcraft has done this now in recent times, where like you'll have a class that's technically a DPS, but now they have a healing spec that they can do. Now they have like a tank spec that they can do, so they can actually do all three roles if they
Oh,
if they
yeah.
build into it. And that I think that takes away the class identity, and it also takes away from people just having different roles that they can play, right?
Yeah.
So I like it that not everybody can do everything, and I would always like actually going back to that question that you said, what would be something that I would not like them to do is that I would not like them to give like everything to everybody to have like kits be too similar.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is one thing we didn't even touch on this, but just like, for example, like a cleric is the only class that can res. And so druids and shaman, I mean, they have excellent kits. They can do so much. So it makes sense to me. How do you feel? Oh, and it just seems like where other MMOs have kind of sort of allowed more quality of life stuff. Monsters and Memories like quadruples down on a lot of stuff like that. Like, yeah, cleric is the only one that can get res. You only get one spell book, uh, unless you go that other route. But it's just very interesting to me. Makes it fun for sure.
Yeah, I think comparatively, I don't want to keep making the same comparison that everybody's going to make, but it is the game that I have most present in my head, which is EverQuest. Um, but I think if you play like Project 99, or if you play the game when it first came out,
Hmm.
uh, and then you go play Monsters and Memories, you can see the places where they've improved upon or they made the experience better. Or they've made it faster or more efficient. Like off the top of my head, the Bard, for example, in Monsters and Memories, you can just swap songs. Whereas in EverQuest, you had to like start a song, cancel a song, start a song, cancel a song, and like so
Okay.
even a small change like that makes a huge difference
Yeah.
in your hand not cramping, over long hours of playtime. So um, there are some things there that I improved, but yeah, for sure they're leading into a more old school hardcore type experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was. I feel like there was something I wanted to ask along like the class balance line, but that's okay. Um, the you know, so okay, we can circle back to this. So how about okay, now this section here, I just thought this would be for fun. Depending on how much time we have, but it's your content style. So this is like for Skwatz the Goblin specifically. Your editing style and pacing is very distinctive, and I'm just wondering, like, yeah, that must have been a deliberate choice, right? Or is that just your personality? You've said it yourself. It's kind of has like very Zoomer-esque qualities. Just curious where that came from.
Um,
If
it is an intentional choice. I wouldn't say it's like, and I think people can tell maybe by listening to this conversation. My usual way of being is more like this. Like I'm more over here in terms of energy level.
yeah,
Um, I'm very relaxed. My streaming experience is going to be similar to a certain extent, just because long hours, I can't really do like very high energy all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the videos are I've intentionally made them that way so that they're a little bit more energetic, a lot leading a lot more into humor if I can. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm always going to be funny, but I'm trying, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
beautiful,
yeah,
by the way. I love it. I discovered you through your YouTube and I saw the video that you made about Monsters and Memories. The thumbnail was excellent, the presentation. I love the editing. It was you very much know how to lean into like the YouTube side of things and the Twitch side of things, which I really appreciate.
yeah, thank you. That video actually did really well. It's not necessarily how every video is going to do, but that's because I mean, YouTube itself is a complicated thing, but I also have been purposely trying not to always go for the most the thing that makes more sense in terms of metrics. I'm trying to also have fun with it. So, for example, the last video that I put out, which is a song, is not it's not really going to do that well. Like the people who like it and who are into Eminem and who are also into Tenacious D and like that kind of crossover, they're gonna enjoy it and they're gonna think it's funny. But that's not most people. But that's okay. Like I'm okay with taking a hit on some of those videos because I enjoyed making that video more than if
Yeah.
I were to just focus on, okay, what's the video, what's the topic that's going to get me the most views? You know, like I could do that, and I already know um, I don't know for sure, but I know based on my previous videos which topics do better for me
Hmm.
with my audience. But I'm trying not to lean into just doing that over and over and over again because I also get bored if I just kind of broach the same topic or do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It's just not my style.
Absolutely. No, and it's great. You got to have a nice balance between like the creative aspect of it, doing things that are fun for you, and then versus, what might be like a popular or successful thing. But yeah, everything about that Monsters and Memories video is just incredible. Like the thumbnail, like the colors, the goblin really popping out, like the font that you used. It was perfect. It inspires me
Thank you.
to
I
to
actually
be
do think
better.
it was a combination of things that really aligned
Yeah.
because I'm also proud of how that turned out. But yeah, I think it's going to vary as far as like your question of where do I get that from. This may seem surprising, but I don't think I'm a very creative person. And what I mean by that is I'm not like say the Goblin works, who works for the M&M team, who does the concept art. Like he can like I'm not like an artist who can like create a creature or a place or something out of nothing, right?
Hmm.
I think where my talent lies, if I had to say, and I hope that doesn't sound too egocentric,
No,
but
this is beautiful.
is
Please.
I'm good at like absorbing. So like I watch other people
Hmm.
and what they do, like their content. And then I'm like, okay, I like this. I'm gonna take this element from this person. I'm gonna take this element from this other person, and then I just kind of make my own blend of what feels like is more me, but it's also taking what I think works from other people. That's kind of how I work. So that style that you see, it's not a direct copy, but it's kind of influenced by other creators I've watched. And I've also, even though I'm 40, I've grown up um, on the internet. And
Hmm.
so I've been in touch with, through games and through streams and whatever, communities
Yeah.
of people who are like in their 20s or their 30s or their 40s.
Yeah.
So I've kind of met um, people in different age ranges.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kept me in touch with uh, how styles have progressed, and I think that's why maybe my style is a little bit less. I don't want to call it boomer, but like less, straightforward and more and it's a little bit more zoomer. That's why I describe it that way. It's because it's been influenced by the fact that I've talked to people who are like younger than I am. So um,
I love that.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that's where it comes from, really.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it's beautiful. I had a thought there. I apologize. I lost my train of thought. No, that's a great answer. Um,
It's okay. I ramble. I do think though, for this specific thing, now that we're talking about it, I'm not sure how good my style of editing would work for Monsters and Memories and EverQuest or MMO type content though, because I think a lot of the audience is my age. Now there
mhm.
are people who are younger who are playing for sure,
You
but I
know,
do think
it
there's a larger portion of that audience that's my age, and I don't know if that style of editing would appeal to them as
yeah.
much.
You know
But I
what
don't know.
though? It's
I'm
interesting.
basically doing it for attention.
It might appeal to a younger audience that otherwise might have not have been interested in the game, and that maybe they check it out that way. Like, what the hell is this, you know? And they're like, "Oh wow." So you never know. You never know. Sorry, were you going to add anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, that's pretty much it. I think in that regard, there's some aspects where I'm my age, and there's other aspects where I've never grown up, and so I think that um, maybe sometimes it can be a con, but in this particular case, I think it helps.
Hmm. Oh, I remember what I was thinking. So, it's interesting you mentioned like, so you grew up on the internet, you kind of kept in touch with people from various communities or streams or whatnot. For me, I'm just now kind of learning. I've always been really bad about like networking or like I never really like to like self promote or like advertise or whatever, but like I've met so many great people through streaming, through content creation and whatnot. But one of my biggest regrets is so like when I was growing up with on EverQuest, even like World of Warcraft to some extent, Final Fantasy 14, which is like my most recent MMO before this, I never really like kept up with people outside of the game. And so I lost touch. Like some of the best people that I've ever met in my life are people I've met online, people I've never like met in real life, or even, some of them I don't know what they look like. And I kind of regret losing touch with so many people. And I think part of me, that's why I'm into kind of streaming or, content creation. Is just, there's a better way to keep up with people, I suppose. Uh, but
Yeah, I think it's overall something that happens to everybody. I mean, I look even at my folks, right? And they've grown up and or they're older, I mean, and maybe they don't get in touch with friends as much as they used to. So I think that's something that everybody goes through to a certain extent. I'm actually pretty introverted, so I don't really know if this is a goblin thing or actually more of a cave troll thing. But I am very much like introverted. I keep to myself. I don't do a whole lot of like super adventurous things outside of games. So um, I guess I kind of
yeah,
struggle with the same things, which I think is why I was also drawn to content creation because it's a way where I can actually interact with, meet, and talk to people that I would otherwise maybe
yeah.
not get in touch with. So I don't know.
I feel yeah. I'm kind of similar. If it was up to me, I would just be here in this room all day playing games, and I don't have a lot of hobbies outside of gaming, to be honest. That's like my number one thing about me as well, which is ironic because I always lament that I don't have so much time to game. But yeah. So, um, so, on the same topic of like content creation and your style and stuff, what makes, from your perspective so far of just, getting into content creation, what makes a good video for you? And what do you hate? Maybe hate is a strong word, but like, so what makes a good video to you? And what do you dislike seeing in MMO content?
In MMO content, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Uh, What's a good video? That's a hard one. I think it will depend on what you're looking for. So like I will consume all sorts of videos. So to give you maybe an example, um, maybe I'll watch something that's more highly edited by Nixium, let's say.
Hmm.
He did a Death of Immersion in Fantasy or something like that recently. I thought was a good video. And it's kind of like a video essay, but it's highly edited. But then
Hmm.
I'll also watch Classic EverQuest, who's somebody who's been in your chat too,
I
who
love
I've talked
classic
to,
EverQuest. Great
and he
guy.
does more like, I sit down and I talk to you about a specific topic, and I like those too. So I don't necessarily know that I would say one type of video is better than the other. They're just different. But I'm
Hmm.
also I think because of the age that I grew up in, I can and I'm comfortable with watching long form content. Whereas I think now kids, especially with like, I'm gonna sound like an old man, with TikToks and shorts and stuff like that, like their attention span is getting shorter and shorter, which is also part of the reason I do my editing the way that I do, is because I'm trying to make long form content, but I'm also trying to keep in mind that people's attention spans are actually uh, shorter than they used to be. And so I try to do things to keep them engaged, whether it's changing the pitch of my voice or changing what happens on screen. That's what I try to do. But yeah, but I would say I don't think there's one type of video that's better than the other. It just depends on your audience, what you're going for,
Yeah, and maybe
what
the
people enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm the same way. I like a whole variety of things, and I'm trying to learn a lot. Like one of my goals this year is to I want to get better at editing, better at thumbnails. Like so I just started thumbnails. I've never had thumbnails on the channel, believe it or not. So the channel's been around for like 6 years today, actually. And yeah, I'm learning, I'm trying new things, and that's why I appreciate it. Like you kind of came out swinging right off the bat, like amazing videos, amazing thumbnails. So I was just curious from like a content creation standpoint. Um, and so
Well, I also
yeah,
think it's people see that and you might say like, oh, he came out like strong. I still think I'm a relatively small channel, right? But um I know for somebody who's watching it as in like, okay, Skwatz is a relatively new thing. They're like, oh man, he's figured out this or he's figured out that. But behind it is also a lot of trial and error. So like I've done a lot of Photoshop for quite a bit of time, and I've had to edit all other types of videos for people. So I think it's pulling that together. It's not like I woke up one day and I was like, "Oh, I'm suddenly good at this." Because like you'll
yeah,
even see with my thumbnails, like they're hit or miss. Sometimes it'll be like that Eminem one where I feel like I nailed it, and then there's other times where like I do three and I don't I don't like any of them, and you can even see it in the metrics because like the video doesn't get pushed out. There's the click through rate or whatever. I try not to obsess too much about that because um, again,
yeah,
because I've been on the internet, I've seen how creators get fixated so much on numbers and doing well, and how much that can affect also their mental health. And so I try not to think about it too much. I try to say, okay, I'm happy with this. If my core audience is happy with it, then I'm happy. Like obviously, if it does better and if it reaches more people, then that's great. But
yeah, yeah,
it's kind of like part of a running gag. So like I'm a person that like will take a joke and then I'll run it into the ground. Like I'll keep repeating that same joke until it's no longer funny. So like I did my version of like spitting the meat. I didn't come up with that idea. That was the developers, but like I made my own take on it.
that was
And I
really
decided to do
beautiful.
a stream where I did over 6 hours of just spinning the meat and doing nothing else
I love
but
that.
that and watching videos while doing that. So like um that was just a random idea. But it was also like surprisingly one of my most active streams because I think people were just drawn to this like
Yeah.
this is a strange idea. Why is this happening? But like
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I believe there's something hidden there that they're waiting for people to discover, or, other things in the game. And I really am interested in that vibe of just, what if there is something, what if you happen upon it and, you're streaming it live as part of history. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Did you come to any conclusions spinning the meat?
uh I came to the conclusion that I am way too comfortable wasting my own time. But
Yeah.
I think it paid off because
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it for this purpose, but because I did that, some of the people from the team reached out, not necessarily in DMs, but I hang out in their streams, and they're like, "Oh, I watched your well, I call it cranking, but yeah, 'cause it's like it's a metal crank, right? So that's the
Yeah.
joke. But anyway,
Yeah.
I
I
want to
love
keep
that.
it PG for the viewers. Either way, the point is like I some of them were like, "Oh, I saw your video. I thought it was funny," or like even Sean said, I wasn't ready for this line that you said, and I was drinking my coffee and I almost spit it out." So like that really for me is the value
I
more
love that.
so than the views, right? Because that video, that meat that spinning video, the original one, not the song,
Yeah.
didn't do that well. I think it's at 100 views maybe now. But it was worth it because
The stream itself
uh,
did well, right? But the YouTube video did not do as well. Is that correct?
yeah, pretty much. But it
Okay.
was also worth not even if the stream had not been that good. I think it still would have been worth because of the positive reaction of the people who did watch it. I think.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and so just a couple more content creation questions. And you did touch on this already, but so how do you decide what's worth making a video about? Is it, just like the vibes? Is it like to do any kind of breaking news, drama, just fun, or something else?
I wish I could say that there's a method to this madness, but honestly, the way that it works for me is I think, and I don't want to compare myself to like any successful artist or writer whatsoever, but I have a similar thing where usually the videos that I do are things where I go to bed and I just can't stop thinking about this idea. Like I get an idea in my head and it just keeps on going, and it might even make me like wake up early because like I keep thinking about it. And so if it's that lasting in my mind, I'm like I should probably do a video on this. And so that's mostly what I base it on. There are topics where I'll purposely choose something that I'm interested in discussing, but generally speaking, it's more of a feeling type thing where like I get a certain idea and I'm like I'm gonna do it. I mean
Yeah.
it may not make too much sense for everybody. Some people might not even enjoy it, but so
Yeah.
like a good example of that is my last video. We were done with a playtest, and so I was in like most people post playtest depression.
Yep.
Not real depression. Sorry, that's like a serious thing. But I mean,
Yeah.
I was looking for ways to deal with that, and so I was like, I'm gonna make a song where I dance and sing on screen, and I'm gonna mix it with something I enjoy. And so I took like a Tenacious D song and I mixed it with uh, the idea of making the best bard guide out there, but it actually not being it. It's just being the tribute to the best guide that was made. And so like that was kind of the play. And so that's the thing that I think only a few people are going to enjoy, but the people who do will enjoy it a lot. So that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And last question about content creation, we're going to move on, is what keeps you consistent without burning out? Streaming on Twitch, making amazing YouTube content. What is the secret sauce there? I know you said there's not really a method to the madness. But I was just curious.
Um, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's interesting because you know the way you view yourself is very different from the way others view you, right? Right. So like I wouldn't consider myself consistent at all. But I will say that if I stop making content, there's always something um, deep inside where it's like you have to do something, you have to create something, you have to like there's that drive somewhere in me that even if I don't feel like it, it's somewhere there. And
Yeah,
I think that's what keeps me going. Even if in terms of schedule, I'm kind of all over the place. I do try to upload at the same time every day, but I don't upload every day. So
yeah.
like it will depend, right? So
That's great. Great answer. And yeah, for me, like I haven't been this fired up about something in a while. And I always say this too. This is like a game that for me, I didn't know that I would I knew that I needed it, I guess. I just didn't like know what it was. And now that it's getting more and more fleshed out, I just feel like okay, like this is what I've been waiting for this whole time. It was just hard to put into words or perspective. Um and so, okay, so I have just a few more questions here and we'll wrap up. So I assume this is not gonna be anything you're too far invested in, but are there any other indie MMOs that you're watching closely besides Monsters and Memories? And is there anything that deserves more attention in your opinion, or are you solely focused on Monsters and Memories going forward?
um, I would say currently I'm pretty heavily focused on Monsters and Memories. I am in a Discord of a person who focuses on indie MMOs, and so I mean I like his content too. I don't want him to think otherwise, but I also use him as a temperature check of like what MMOs are out there that I may not know about because he actually does a really good job of keeping track of all of the indie creations
Oh,
that are
cool.
happening. And so like I'll use his videos as well. And by use I mean I'll watch them and I'll see oh this is interesting. So like I do keep an eye on them, but currently I would say I'm more focused on Monsters and Memories. I've been told really good things about I'm gonna butcher the name, but Adrenaline Online Adventures.
Yeah, no, you got
It
it.
was called something different, but they had to change it.
Yeah, it was called
And
EverCraft.
EverCraft, yeah. See that was one that I would remember, but I can see why they had to change it. I would imagine.
Yeah,
Um, that one I've heard really good things about. The only thing that's keeping me from fully investing into it is, and I know this is like a very superficial thing, but because of the voxel style graphics, um, it just I cannot shake the Minecraft idea from my head. And not that there's anything bad. I think Minecraft is a fantastic game, but it makes me think that I'm in a crafting survival game when I'm
yeah,
actually playing an MMO.
yeah,
And I know that's something you can get over, but I just
yeah.
haven't done
It's
that yet.
it's
So.
very off-putting, trust me. So I'm glad you said that. That game is also up there along with Monsters and Memories for me, and trust me, I feel the exact same way. I never played Minecraft. I'm not into voxels, but it's kind of like the same thing of people who say, I don't like Monsters and Memories because of how it looks. But I'm telling you, there's something really beautiful there. It really captures the spirit of EverQuest, and it's funny how cute and whimsical it looks and feels, but yet it's like a brutal, harsh world, social elements. Like it's kind of off-putting at first, and then it'll really grow on you. So I'd be very curious to see what you think in like future playtests and stuff, if you get an opportunity to play it. So yeah,
Yeah, I was
cool.
actually I was looking forward to playing in the flash test, but I don't know if this is a miscommunication or if I just misunderstood, but I originally understood that that flash test was only going to be like that day for a few hours. So I was like, I'm not going to have time to play, so I'll wait till next time. And then that flash test ended up going, I think, for like 2 or 3 days. So I would have had like ample time to try something, right? So
Yeah.
I regret not trying it then, but I'm sure they'll have other playtests. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, the time will come, you know. The time will come for sure. Okay, so going back to Monsters and Memories here, so if you could just bottle up one message and send it to the dev team, what would it be?
Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Keep at it. Focus on making a game that you would be proud of, but that you would also feel good playing, which is, I think, already the path that everybody's on that team. And let it take, however long it takes. I know a lot of people were frustrated because we were going to get early access around, March at the latest. Now it's been pushed back to June. But I am of the mind that the game should really be ready. Like they should be comfortable with what they want to put out because the truth is the internet can be very harsh and very unforgiving and not very understanding. And so I think them taking the time, not rushing, especially because they have a team that is mostly composed of people volunteering their free time to get it right.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Absolutely. I would say the exact same thing. Yeah, just let them cook, be patient. It's great. And that's what I try to tell people. There's so much other stuff out there. Just take your time. It's gonna come. Don't worry about it. And I know, so one of the things, this is just an optional question too. We don't have to, but it's like, what's an MMO hot take that would be fun or funny, like a wild opinion that might not be super popular, like not meant to start drama or anything, just for fun. But for me, like with this, I wanted to say is like, even if it gets pushed back another 6 months, like I would be okay. Just give us play tests every once in a while. It's all good. I know that's a hot take, but that's how I feel is just because, we kind of learned a lot of lessons with like Pantheon, for example. They kind of had a turbulent development cycle, and it's incredibly difficult to make a game. But what I really appreciate about the Monsters and Memories team is like, yeah, they're not accepting any money. It's largely volunteer, and also too, I think what's cool is like a big portion of the game has been developed live on Twitch, which is really really cool. And it's kind of unique in that way, where everything is transparent, everything is there. There's VODs, they're doing it. They're not trying to sell you like a BS product that's not there or try to swindle you, like we've seen in these like horrific Kickstarter campaigns of stuff going wrong. So it's an amazing team. They know what they're doing. And yeah, please take your time. That's what I say.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think this doesn't count as an indie MMO, so I didn't mention it in the previous question. But for example, they're in a very good spot comparatively to other teams that might be beholden to like stakeholders or a specific company. So, and I say that because there was an MMO called Ghost. I don't know if that was going to be the final name, but
oh, I heard
it was
about
being
this.
made. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was being funded by NetEase, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, they got their funding pulled, and so they tried to get other investors, but they weren't able to. And so I think right now, for the time being, that project is closed. And the thing that gives me hope is that Monsters and Memories doesn't have that limitation because they're not necessarily working off of investors or you know
Yeah.
a company carrying them through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a very rare thing in the space right now. So, and just to go off of that too, we're talking like people now, they have shorter attention spans, whatnot. People, gamers in general these days, they can be immediately dismissive. Quatos and I touched on this. It's like you have someone who is barely gonna try, they log in, they kind of go out there, die to a mob, and log out. They don't ask for help. They don't do anything, and then they leave a bad review or they say this game sucks. So it's very smart of the devs to just cook. and even like not put it on Steam right off the bat. Just take your time, get it right. Don't accept money until you feel confident, and I love that, you know. Um, okay, sweet. Well, I think that that's pretty much all the questions that I had. I'm starting there's this is kind of a new thing right at the very end here. Do you is there anyone that you'd nominate for this show? Like anyone that you think might be worth talking to? Just a good guest with a good vibe that might have some interesting perspectives. Um, just trying to get some ideas. If you'd recommend that I reach out to anyone
Um,
in particular.
on the spot, on the spot.
No,
That is a good question.
yeah, no, there's a
It's
lot of
not that there is. It's not that there aren't any. I'm just trying to think of like if there are any like Monsters and Memories specific channels that don't also just do EverQuest. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
yeah.
but yeah,
And
I
I'd
don't
be
know if
interested. I might,
off the chain I'd be able to think of a name, but
no worries. It's just an idea. And like I said, I'm still kind of working out some stuff, kind of trying to figure out exactly you know, the idea. My idea with this show is gonna be it's back to the golden age because that's what I really talk to about. And a lot of my streams are, I'll either say back to the golden age with EverQuest or back to the golden age with Monsters and Memories. It's just kind of my whole thing. But I do want to keep it Monsters and Memories centric. But just from today, from talking to you, I realize not every single person coming into this is basically going to be an EQ veteran. So might have to reassess here and just maybe jump straight into Monsters and Memories, just kind of really zero it in.
I
Which
would say now that I've had some time to process, you could maybe ask Perblade or I purge people. It sounds
okay,
it's from World of Warcraft. So he did there was a spell called Purge
okay,
the shamans had, and he developed new strats for using it in raids. And
oh,
he's a person I've talked to before,
okay,
and he started with World of Warcraft, so he never played EverQuest before. Um, Before playing Monsters and Memories, and he loves Monsters and Memories. So
wow,
I think
okay,
that would be cool just from the perspective of somebody who never played those kinds of games before and is now enjoying a game like this. So
okay.
that could be,
I'm just gonna make a note here. Purge Blade.
yeah,
Oh
I'll write
yes,
you the name.
yeah. If you could just DM me it, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much for the recommendation. Um, all right. Is there anything that I mean, anything that you want to talk about that I might have missed or anything more like Monsters and Memories related? I think we covered a lot of ground. If
I
there's
think
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, okay, well then to wrap up, so do you wanna plug anything here at the end? Where can people find you? What should they check out next? What are you working on coming down the pipeline?
I'm Skwatz the Goblin everywhere so far. I mean, by everywhere I mean YouTube, Twitch, Twitter or X, um,
And I'll be
and
sure to
maybe
put all
in a
that
few
in
other
the
places soon, but not yet. Um, as far as like what's down the road, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the next video might be uh, kind of like a video essay on the psychology behind why people enjoy grinding in video games, like
interesting.
working towards a long-term goal.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'll definitely look forward to it. And then just very last question to wrap up, and this is totally optional, so no worries. But what's one thing that your community so far, and I know you're just getting started, so community's kind of a weird term, but you seem to exist pretty much everywhere in the space. Discord, Twitch streams, people know you and are coming to know you. But what's one thing that your community may or may not know about you? That's something fun,
Uh,
whimsical. It can be anything really.
Fun or whimsical?
You seem to like a
Uh,
lot of really good music. I hear you playing that on stream a lot. I think that's kind of cool.
yeah, that is true. I think I mean I've touched upon this on stream sometimes, but you don't always have the same people necessarily. So some people might have missed this. Um, you know this because we talked about it to a certain extent, but I think it would surprise people to know that English is not my first language, and I'm not from the US either. I'm from South America, so I think that's something that people don't know right away. Um,
Very cool.
it's not necessarily something I hide, but it's also not something that's immediately apparent unless I'm speaking Spanish or something.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all I have. That's a list of questions. Man, thank you so much for your time. Like I really appreciate it. And it was great. It was great. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Thank you so much.